Okay, hold on. I know the answer. I just need to organize my head. So you can if you want. I would need to set up a campaign for that. Because unless you have a premium or plus subscription, if you make a character sheet that's not in the campaign, it's to be played in or whatever, then you have to essentially transfer it. And the only way you can do that without remaking it is with a subscription. So what I can do is after this, I can like make an official campaign 2 game and give you all the link to that if you want to get a head start on making your character sheets. So the basic agenda for tonight, it should not be that long because all of us know for the most part how to roughly how to navigate the character sheet now. So I don't have to explain what each thing specifically is. The goal of tonight is basically the primary thing is like giving you guys more independence. For example, if I give you an item, you'll be able to add it in like all the attack and damage and modifiers by yourselves, or if you were adding a spell, traits, basically just all that. They all pretty much follow the same format. It's very readable. The GUI given to us is very nice. So for now, go ahead and open up your character sheet and go. You should start in the bio info tab, right? Go to the character sheet. You should have a little pop-up that says, how do you want to create this character? For now, let's click on edit sheet directly. Ideally, we would use the character mancer because it's nice, it's convenient, and you don't have to manually look up each thing in the book. But for those of you who are playing custom classes and or races, you'll probably have to do character creation manually and leveling up manually. Both of which are actually pretty similar to what you've already done. They just require more cross-referencing. So let's click edit sheet directly. So you'll see you just have a bunch of blanks. Let me make this larger here. Also, a nice quality of life thing that Eternal reminded me existed is that if you guys don't want to close out your character sheet, but you still want to keep it like somewhat loaded, if you double click the header, it minimizes it, right? So you can sort of drag around this little tab, and you can have multiple sheets up at the same time. And when you want to open it back up, you just double click it again.
What?
So that's a nice thing.
If you drag like magic missile from your sheet down to the bottom.
How are you doubled? That's so weird.
It's the Roll20.
It's because she's on Roll20.
Oh, I see.
I thought I turned off.
You turned the video off, not the mic off, though.
Oh, okay. If you take something from your spell sheet and you put it at the bottom of your screen, it'll create a button, so you just have to click it.
That's super useful. But Dynasty's talking about macros, which are a nice way to speed up gameplay without having to open up the character sheet and click on the thing you want each time. So we're just gonna go from top down. Pretty much everything is really self-explanatory. You see here, there's a little choose class. If you were manually making it, then I don't know if you can necessarily type it in, but like this doesn't really matter. As you can see, whenever I click choose class, the thing that it does change are proficiencies and saving throws. So you can see how like Warlock has proficiency in Wisdom and Charisma, and Barbarian has Strength and Constitution. The other thing it changes is your hit dice. Now, these can all be toggled manually without choosing this. So what the heck is an Illrigger? I have never seen that. But if you were playing a class that's not available, just keep it on choose, and then you just kind of have to write it down somewhere, like, I don't know, custom class, and then here's your level manually toggle. All of this is going to be manual. So really the only thing this does change is these toggles and the hit dice. So you may be asking, if you're playing a custom class, how do you change your hit dice? Well, my friends, I believe your hit dice is what determines how much health you have, and is also what determines how much health you heal during a short rest. It is class dependent. So wizards have the lowest hit dice. They have a D6. And I think barbarians have the highest with D12, I think. Something like that. But I believe if you go to this little cog wheel, you get a bunch of different options, right? And we'll go over this in a moment. There's a lot here. It's still pretty self-explanatory, but your hit dice is right here. Let's say I'm making a class and their hit dice is a D10. I click D10. I'm using a custom class. And now, notice how this field changes from a toggle to a, I guess, typable, a fillable field. So, custom class and custom subclass. So that's what you do. This is very pertinent for those of you who are making custom classes. You can see here there's other stuff like spellcasting ability. I don't think anybody is homebrewing a class, so all this stuff should be available on the relevant webpage or book. Let's say that this guy is going to use dexterity as their spellcasting ability. Obviously, if they're not a spellcaster, it doesn't really matter what you choose here. Just choose none. And then for spell slots, there's 3 different options. We'll go over this, but basically, there's like 3 different quote-unquote tiers of magic users in D&D. Clerics, druids, and wizards get the most amount of spell slots, while arcane fighters and rogues get the least amounts. I'm pretty sure they should tell you if you're making a custom class. I don't want to spoil who's who, but for those of you who are doing a custom spellcaster, just DM me and I will double check with you which one of these you should choose. This is what gives you spell slots. The other option is down here, you can just manually change how many spell slots you want. So let's say at level 1, I have 25 level 1 spell slots. That's not true. But this is on top of what you may have chosen here. This just gives you that many spell slots. And you can check that on your spell page. Look, I have 25 total level 1 spell slots. So if this little thing isn't clear, then just type in your spell slots here manually. It's super nice, super convenient. Okay, so that's that. That was hit dice and this thing up here. Everything else, obviously, you fill out race, sub-race, type that in all here. And when you're done, you can click this little cogwheel to close that form, and everything is sort of uneditable. This cogwheel is what changes any of these fields from editable to uneditable. Okay, so that's everything up there. Here's your name. On the left here, this is super convenient. If you wanted to change these, you can just straight up type what number you want. I have 50 strength, and they will automatically calculate your modifier. So what's the difference between... Yeah, go for it.
You might probably be just about to talk about this, but what's the big number and what's the small number?
Yeah, I was just about to talk that. Excellent question. So this small number down here, the term for it is your ability score. This rarely comes into play. It's usually there for just determining the big number. But on certain occasions, like tiebreakers or some other specific things, you might use your ability score. This is your ability modifier. This is the number that's added to your D20 roll. So right now, I get a plus 20 to all strength rolls, right? This is what's going to be used more often. This you cannot edit directly. You always have to edit your ability score and not your modifier. But if you were wondering, that is the difference. The specific math behind it, 10 is the default. 10 is 0. Every 2 points above or below 10 translates to 1 ability modifier. So 12 would be plus 1, 8 would be minus 1, so on and so forth. So that's how you change all of these independently. You will also notice that by changing these values, relevant scores in all of these will change. So let's change my strength back to 50. My strength save is now 20, and the one skill that uses strength, which is athletics, also gets a plus 20. So this, for the most part, is completely automated. Let's move on. What's up?
So I was gonna say, what determines the bottom number then? Is it like the dice rolling thing that you just have to, or like
pretty much, yeah. So these numbers are for the most part determined only when creating your character and when leveling up.
Okay.
Outside of that, they're not touched unless an item or a condition affects that score, which is very rare. Most of the time, they affect your modifier and not the score. And And so I guess on that note, the rules for this upcoming campaign, we're doing the 4d6 drop 1 method. What that means is that you roll 4d6, you drop the lowest one rolled, and that is your ability score, which is the bottom number, for one of your traits. You can see what Eternal did right here. Yeah, so see, Eternal rolled 4d6, he rolled a 5, a 4, and a 2, so he dropped the 2, and so he would have a 14, which he can put into any one of these boxes.
Oh shit. Okay.
So we're instead of doing point buy, which is what we did before, which was like sort of the most balanced way. 46 allows for some more variance. So you can have things as low as 3 if you're super unlucky, right, and roll all 1s, or you can have things as high as 18 if you roll 3 6s and then something else. So it's gonna result in a hopefully more diverse group, and you can play more into your strengths and weaknesses. It is, I think mathematically, 46 drop 1 is slightly better than the average. I think the average is like 12 or something. But that's what we're going with, and I said, unless you roll multiple 3s, the stats you get are the ones you stick with. Own those strengths, own those flaws. Eternal's doing some fancy smanchy stuff now.
Wait. So how did we do it last time? Because I definitely did it by myself with like dangerous help.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what I did.
Last time we used a system called point buy, where basically you get a specific number of stats which you can allocate as you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I will
say,
I will add that if you're using the Character Mancer and you're using a pre-made class, when you get to the point where you're selecting your abilities, there's a roll for stats drop down, and what I just outputted into the chat was clicking rolled 46, drop the lowest, and it automatically does it for you. So those numbers there, the 11, 10, 12, 17, 9, and 4 would be what you're able to pick from, and it pops up like in the Character Mancer for you. So
shit.
Just pick and grab and click which ones you want.
Appreciate that. No, thank you for checking that out. That's super nice. So that's what that is. Any questions about ability scores, ability modifiers?
Well, I better get 18 on everything, I said.
Oh, there is one more thing. So notice how you can't change this modifier directly, right? What if you temporarily have -1 strength? Well, you don't want to necessarily change this from a 50 to 48, because what if you forget? That would kind of suck. Going back to that handy-dandy page in this cogwheel, you'll notice there's a place here where you can directly modify each of those scores. And as long as you don't forget to change it here, like, okay, so let's say I'm poisoned. I temporarily have -5 to strength. Go ahead and type in -5. And okay, oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So it displays the -5. I guess this is the modifier. This is the score, not the modifier. And interestingly, when I hover over it, it changes back to its original. Right. I'm pretty sure there is a way to.
Jozy?
Yeah.
So when you go to the cogwheel there on the far right, you can click Show Global Save Modifiers, Skill Modifiers, Attack, Damage, AC Modifiers. Right down a little bit. Your mouse.
Oh yeah. All these guys. Yeah.
So when you do that, it pops up an additional box.
A lot of additional boxes. Yeah.
So there, if you're poisoned or something like that adjusts your saving throws, you can change it there and just put, poisoned, and then instead of rolling 1d4, you just put -4 in there.
Yeah.
Whatever the modifier is, and then you just
exactly
pick it when you're poisoned or non-poisoned. Personally, I think that's easier, but either way works. As long as
it's easier for things that have a consistent modifier, but if you had to manually add a value, then you type it in basically. But yeah, to what Eternal's saying, these global blank modifiers, basically they add these modifiers. So bless is the default, because if you have a cleric, your party's probably going to get blessed pretty often, and you don't want to manually roll the bless modifier each time. So it's like, the cleric has blessed me. Okay, so now instead of doing the math and, like, let's say I have to make a strength saving throw, I'm blessed, so I'd roll an additional 1d4. Instead of manually doing that and then adding it, you just click, okay, I'm making a strength throw, tick this box. When I make this, it'll add the modifier, which is a 4, as you can see.
Wait, so that plus. Wait, so how is that similar to what we were just doing to the left, though? Because the modifier was a hit die with the bless, but then with the modifier, when we were talking about modifiers earlier, we were adding numbers to these values to the left.
So the difference is these numbers here pretty much don't change at all. The small numbers, like, they really don't ever change for the most part. There are very specific times when they do, but for the most part, they don't change. These global modifiers are there for your convenience because if your party has a buff that you use regularly, and it's also, Bless does not directly affect these numbers on the left. What Bless does is that you get to add an extra 1d4 to your relevant roll. And instead of having to roll the 1d4 separately, you just tick this box whenever you are blessed, and the game takes care of the rest.
I see.
Does that answer your question?
So, okay, so if you have a constant modifier, then you can just add that?
Yeah, I mean...
There's a save modifier and a skill modifier. Ooh, wait.
Right.
Where did these go?
That's what so that's the other thing that I wanted to move on to, but for just this box on the left-hand side with the 6 stats, do we have any questions about that?
I do, but I think I'll wait until later.
Okay, as long as you're sure. I mean, what's your question?
I mean, yeah, feel free to ask it because I'm not like 100% sure, but I actually don't even know what to ask. So,
well, I think kind of directly relates to what I want to do next campaign, right? So, how would I add my modifiers with the race that I picked?
Manually, pretty much.
So I just add just one to each one that I want, or?
Yeah, for humans, yeah, you would basically just add a 1 after you roll for your stats. That's like a...
If you do the Character Mancer, though, it automatically adds it for you. If you pick
the Character Mancer does everything for you, but if you're doing a class that's not in the Character Mancer, then things, obviously, you'll have to do manually.
Yeah.
I can talk about the leveling, I can talk about the actual character creation process, but for now I just want to stick with navigating this sheet. Just because that's like sort of bit by bit. Character creation is technically, like, manual character creation is separate from the sheet. It's more about just 5e rules. But I can totally talk about that if we have time today or some other day.
To directly answer that question, though, would be how you first did it, Josie, doing the attribute options in the cogwheel, just adding a 1 to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, that would be... I would personally save these for just, like, temporary modifiers, because innate things should be here to signify that they're permanent, if that makes any sense. Because you can just edit these directly.
Yeah. Wait, so if you have a +1 or 2, does that go to the bottom number or the top? Or like the top? So like if it's the top number, do you add like double that, or?
So I'm pretty sure, unless it specifically states ability modifier, the pluses and minuses always go to the smaller number, the bottom number.
Because I do know humans get like a +1 to everything, I think, or something like that.
Which is a +1 to their... I believe it says +1 to their ability scores.
Which means...
I'm pretty sure it does, which is the bottom number.
Oh, so then the top number is the modifier?
The top number is the modifier, that's correct.
Oh my god, it's so confusing. Okay.
I mean, you think of it this way. Like, let's say I have 18 strength, right? You can, I guess, intuit that 18 is not your modifier, because if you get a +18 to all of your rolls, that's disgusting, right? So the smaller number is going to be your modifier, because a +4 is a lot more reasonable than a +18 to a roll.
So the 18 is the modifier and the 4 is the what?
Other way. 18 is the score, 4 is the modifier.
Oh, okay.
Because the 4 modifies the roll.
All right, no, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so the score. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's say if it's a +1 to the modifier, then you add +2 to the score.
Yes, pretty much. I really am not sure if there's anything in the game that does that on a regular basis. But
Okay.
if there is, then you know what to do.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. This is very simple. There's a little checkbox. This is a point of confusion, though. This references inspiration, which is different than bardic inspiration. Very confusing. This is, I call it DM inspiration, which is basically if you do something that impresses the DM, they may give you inspiration, which is basically a free reroll. That's really all this is. This check mark just tells you if you have it or if you don't. You can only have one at a time. And it's, I guess, like a psychological incentive to do cool stuff because the DM's supposed to give them out like rewards when you do something that makes them happy or something. I don't know. I have not been good about giving out inspiration. I will try and do better about that. But next campaign, I do intend. Next campaign, I do intend to be a little more liberal with granting inspiration. Honestly, the current reason I don't is because I just keep forgetting it exists, which is my own fault. Okay, next thing here, proficiency bonus. This cannot be edited on here. I believe if you want to edit that, it's probably in the cogwheel. Any of these numbers you can't directly edit, it's probably in the cogwheel somewhere called something. But this is automatically determined by your level. So, for example, actually, if I go up here, and let's change this from level 1 to level 10, it should update it automatically. Yes, there we go. It updates it to level 4. So I'm pretty sure this is handled automatically based on your level. I don't think it differs from class to class or from race to race.
What if you multi-class, though? Then
when you multi-class, it is based on your total level.
Okay, gotcha. But then you can have a custom though. If you click the cogwheel, there's a scroll down where you can put by level, which is default, or you can do the proficiency die. Which is based off the DMG.
I have no idea what the proficiency die is.
And then there's a custom
alternate rule.
So if you want to change it, then there's always a custom, I guess.
But since we're running 5e, this should be handled automatically. It should be you shouldn't have to worry about it theoretically. As long as you remember to change your level here, then it's fine. So your question is, what does this do, right? Proficiency is exactly what it sounds like. It's there. It's a bonus you get if you are proficient in something, right? And on that note, let me remove these global modifiers just to simplify what's on the screen. So you have all these saving throws, and you might remember on your character sheet, you may have some check boxes next to them. So watch when I check this box here, right? My wisdom saving throw goes from a 0 to a 2, because now I'm adding my proficiency bonus to it. And this changes when you level up. So basically, like, if you're making a character and it says, I'm proficient in these skills, click the checkbox, and it'll automatically add all these values. Again, in real life, you'd have to manually write things down, but that's pretty much what it does. Proficiency bonus also comes into play for attack rolls and I believe spell casting, which is, again, for the most part, handled automatically. And then in terms of what these things are here, you guys are familiar with this. I don't think we have to go through it, but basically, that's what the checkbox means. It means you're proficient in it. It adds your proficiency bonus automatically on top of any relevant modifier from your stat block on the left. Any questions about inspiration, proficiency bonus, saving throws, or skills? Okay. I believe the others... Yeah, what's up?
Okay, never mind. Okay, so... Alright, never mind. I got it.
Okay.
Wait. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So, I should be taking notes. Top number, modifier. Bottom number is what?
Skill. Or, sorry, score.
Score. Okay. I got you. Okay, continue. Yep. Sorry.
The other thing about these values, they too can be changed manually. Again, in this cogwheel here, notice you have modifiers for each of your saves. There's a death save modifier. We pretty much never use that. There's a global saving throw modifier. This affects all your saving throws, which is everything up above here. Look at all these skills down here, right? You can manually add, I don't know, plus 20 to animal handling. And now I have a 20 in animal handling. Let's give me proficiency on top of that. Now I have a 22. So if an item gives you bonus to any of these skills, you can go over here and manually change those values. You may also notice on the left there's this thing, this like drop down tab. Expertise, I don't know if any class other than Rogue has this, but expertise basically makes it so that you cannot roll below a certain limit. So for Wheelie, for example,
The 10.
expertise, yeah, like it means that he literally cannot roll below a 10 on certain skills, which is insane. And that's before any modifiers. So like he has like a plus 12 to stealth, so like unless he rolls a nat 1, the lowest he can ever roll for stealth in the future is 22. Which is crazy. I don't know if classes other than Rogue have expertise, but that's what that is for.
Rogue
And I believe that's also that's also automatically turned by level. And then the other thing is your passive perception, which I haven't been using that much because technically this is something that I would have to keep in mind to see what you passively percept, but it's exactly what it sounds like without making a perception check. This is just your base, how attentive you are of things. And this is affected by your wisdom and your proficiency, I believe. Yes. So that's what this guy is down here.
So I do know that surprise rounds are determined by like passive perception versus like what's it called, stealth, I guess, or not stealth. Is it
surprise
stealth?
rounds? You're actually like on the right track. A surprise round is what happens basically at the DM's discretion when you surprise the enemy. I guess strictly speaking, if you guys are walking into an ambush, your passive perception would be there to see if you notice that there is an ambush, right? If you do notice it, you would not be surprised.
Okay.
I think a lot of people just ask you to make perception checks instead. It depends up to the DM because there's just so many rules in D&D that people decide to follow or to not follow.
Because I was asking because I was reading up on it because I was considering multi-classing into Rogue. And and there was an assassin subclass where like if you get a surprise round, you do like extra damage or something. So it's like, oh, so what's the surprise round? So how like, oh, if your passive perception is, or like the enemy's passive perception does not beat your like stealth score or your
then
stealth
you
check.
get a surprise round.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be just that, but that's the raw rules. Is if basically you are able to ambush them by being sneaky and they don't notice you. But for players, passive perception also plays a role into just your general awareness, so it's not just for looking for enemies. Okay. Any questions about any of these skills? I'll get to these in a minute because they're kind of related, but I want to lump into another section.
So I remember in the character when I was creating the first character for Aragon, I was adding numbers to these skills, like acrobatics, intimidation, or whatever, medicine. Or actually, I don't entirely recall if I were adding numbers, but are these numbers based off of like your scores?
Yes, exactly. That is exactly what they're based off of. You can see next to them in small letters is an abbreviation. So watch this intimidation and persuasion and performance scores, right? My charisma right now is +0. I'm going to make it into a +1. And that affects all of the relevant skills here. This, for the most part, is done automatically. So it's just a nice convenient thing. It is determined by your ability scores over here. Yep. And I don't believe you manually type the scores in the Character Mancer. I think you can choose proficiencies, which again is that check mark box next to these.
Okay.
Yep. Do not be afraid of asking questions. Questions is how you learn, and this is a friendly session. Okay, next up is AC. I think we all know what AC is. It's basically, the way I'm running it, when you make an attack, if it equals their AC or exceeds it, then you hit it. This can be altered manually. The other thing is that AC and initiative are both affected by your dexterity, which I guess is represented by your ability to dodge and react. So if I change my dexterity from a +0 to +1, you see how these two increase respectively.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yep.
crazy.
The other nice thing is that if you are using armors that are in the base game, so let me just find a random thing. If you are using armors that exist in one of the rule books, I believe AC calculation is automatic. So let me find a half plate. And I'll just drag that in here. So I put in a half plate, and this has all of the information from the compendium. There's a little checkbox that says equipped, right? If I uncheck that, it's no longer equipped. So notice how when I put this guy on, when I put on my half plate, my AC goes from a 10 to a 15. It also takes into account, because some armors also scale with dexterity, some don't. I'm not sure if a half plate is one of those. Okay, it looks like half plate does care about your dexterity score. I think heavy armors don't care about your dexterity. But again, if you're using items that already exist in the rulebooks and you drag them from the compendium, then it's done automatically. Otherwise, you do it manually. You can type it in here. There's also a relevant field somewhere in here. Yeah. Initiative. This is not really modified by anything except your dexterity. And again, there is, I believe, an initiative thing somewhere here. Yeah, initiative modifier. So for example, let's say you take an ability that gives you +5 to initiative, right? Oh, I guess not +50. Where's my delete button? +5. My initiative bonus is a 5. On top of any relevant bonuses from dexterity. So now it's a +7 because I have the +2 plus the 5 on top of that. This cog wheel, if you learn how to use this cog wheel, you will become a power user. It is super, super nice. Speed is determined by your race and class. You can type this in manually because it's one or the other, I think. But that's self-explanatory. That's how much you can move in one turn.
It's a combination of both, Josie. 'Cause some classes like monk get
Yeah, monks
added to
get the
movement.
move. Yeah.
Barbarian does too. They get a little +10 bonus.
Yeah, and there's a feat that lets you change your speed as well, but this can be managed manually, which makes it easy. Okay. The next thing here, hit point. This is super self-explanatory. There's 2 fields here. Up here is your maximum, and this is your current. It's just how you keep track of things. It's super self-explanatory. These can be modified as you want. And below here, which if you didn't know existed, is a temporary hit points. This does not appear on the token, unfortunately. So if you have temporary hit points, just remember that they exist down here.
How temporary are they? Like,
I believe they go away after a short rest.
Okay, that makes sense.
But otherwise, they stay with you forever. Think of it as an overshield. That's the best way to think about them, I think. Okay, that's all of that. This is self-explanatory. Hit dice. So, your hit dice, same thing. You have total hit dice, and then you have current hit dice. This is determined by your level and your classes. So if you may remember, each class has their own hit dice. Barbarians have a D12, wizards have a D6. Everybody else is somewhere in between that, D8, D10s. That's the type of dice determined, and your number is determined by your level. Now you may be asking, what if you multi-class into a class that has a different hit dice? For example, what if I'm a barbarian, D12, and I multi-class into a wizard with a D6? Well, my friends, there is a toggle, and I did it for Eternal and Galadriel. Or I guess Ganondorf and Galadriel. There's a toggle somewhere here that lets you use multiple hit dice based on your class. Here it is. Track hit dice per class. Now again, it changes the box, which is fine, and then a new thing comes up, and this I will get to in a moment. But
oops. God.
Yeah. But pretty much, let me just, for example, let's just I actually have not played with this, but basically, if you were manually multi-classing into a second class, you'd have to do some cogwheel stuff. But otherwise, if you use the Character Mancer, it'll just give you like a second row of hit dice, and that's also tracked automatically. For those of you who are not multi-classing, you do not have to worry about that. The type is determined by whatever it says on the sheet, the rule sheet, and the total hit dice is determined by your level. So if I'm level 10, I have 10 max hit dice. Your current is just your current. That's your current amount. That's self-explanatory.
Josie, if you want to show me real quick, you can go to the cogwheel and just toggle second class artificer, and it'll pop up a second one, left side, middle.
Yes. Yep. So Artificer has a D8. This guy's now a level 1 in custom class and a level 1 Artificer. So it also just shows it up here.
So
yeah, I'll go.
What die do you use though?
It says, well, so when you actually decide to use the hit dice, that's up to you. Actually, you can choose.
What?
Yeah. So if you have multiple, I mean, I guess hit dice really only comes into play when you're resting. I don't think they're ever used otherwise unless you're doing something special. Yep. So that's it. And, if I have a third class that has a different hit die, so let's make my third class a barbarian. And just to show you, let's make it level 3. Oh, that's weird. I don't know how that happened. That shouldn't be there. Okay, this is actually great. This actually transitions really nicely. So right now, I'm a level 1 custom class, which gives me a D10 hit dice. I'm a level 1 artificer, which is a D8. And I believe I said I'm a level 3 barbarian, right? Which means I should only have 3 D12, but I have this extra row. Now, what's going on there? I guess the sheet bugged out. I don't really know. But if you want to remove it, and this goes for anything, there's a little lock button. This lets you drag and drop the order of things and delete things. So I'm going to get rid of this extra D12 because I should not have it. And now it's gone. Lock everything back up. This is all fixed, nice and tidy. Yep, and this is, you can see there's a lock button in a lot of these fields. It does the same thing in all of them. It lets you drag the order, it lets you delete them. Down here, also self-explanatory, these are your death saves. 3 successes, you stabilize. 3 fails, you die. And it just tracks it for you, which is nice. They reset when you are stabilized. Okay, any questions about this? Any questions about this whole section?
Oh, for the save successful and the failure, it's just basically whatever you get 3 in first?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep. It's not 3 successes in a row or 3 failures in a row. It's just additive across the entire time you are downed.
And we're really dying this campaign, right? This new campaign?
This new campaign, yeah. Dying is dying.
Okay,
so
well,
should we
time to make a
have,
backup.
Like, a backup character?
I would probably be, that would probably be a good idea. You don't have to fully flesh it out, because, I mean, the idea of permadeath is to incentivize you to play well. Yeah. So, but, like, it would not hurt to think about ideas for a backup character.
Josie wants us to stick to the story this time instead of...
No, it's not that. It's actually
going to be a cleric this time.
Don't be risky.
Risky is definitely the thing, but I think my problem with this particular arc, which is not your guys' fault, it's my fault. I think I'm doing a decent job of not making it seem railroady. I think, maybe. Please yell at me if you don't agree, but the idea of quote unquote following a story, like a good example, I like to think of the chapter before this, right, with the bank heist and also Isaria and Wheelie's hometown. I had specific things that would happen after like X amount of time, but like literally you guys could do whatever you wanted. And I have preparations, like I have story beats, which sort of kind of guide you on what to do next, but for the most part, it's not like, if you wanted to be suicidal and cut down a tree that would kill all of you, then like you can do that, you would just die. So, it's D&D, in my vision of it, it's not like me reciting to you my story. It's about me providing the setting. You guys are the ones who are telling the story.
Right.
because you guys are actually acting and interacting with the world that exists. Okay. I'm going to move on from this. I'm going to move on to an introduction to this sort of new thing. Well, these are all, by the way, these all can be manually typed in. This is flavor, personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws. I guess if you wanted to know exactly what these meant, like, they're pretty self-explanatory. This is personality traits. Maybe you write down generally how your character should behave. I think now that we're creating characters, like, we'll have a pretty good idea of their alignments and their behaviors before actually going into the campaign. Like, if one of you guys served in law enforcement, you'd probably be lawful good. And you probably would have no tolerance for, like, less than legal things. Like, if you have a rogue in the party, you probably wouldn't like them very much. Ideals are, what motivates you, how do you see the world. Bonds are, I believe bonds are like what ties you to the world. I think when you create a character using the character mancer, it's like, my sister went missing like 3 years ago and I will do anything to find her, whatever. And flaws are your flaws, but you don't have to fill these out if you don't want to. I think for the next campaign, you guys mostly have your characters in your head, so you don't have to worry about these.
Personally, I use them as like a reference point on how I should play my character. That way I don't let like my own ideals interject, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a reminder. Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to be trying to kill everything because I'm a very possessed. Not like I should really go help them right now.
And there was actually a fantastic clip short I watched on YouTube a couple of days ago. It was from Dimension 20, I think, one of their Fantasy High campaigns. One of the characters in the game, so the guy playing it, Lou Wilson, his character is named Fabian Seacaster, and Fabian is not a smart character, right? And so he made a really, really, like, an extremely dumb decision that actually resulted in him losing levels. His player knew that this was an awful decision, but he felt that this was like how his character would act, because his character was basically super cocky, got into something that was like way too difficult for him to actually resolve, but he had full confidence in his ability and was humbled, very harshly humbled. I hope we get situations like that where it's like, if you're playing a character that like maybe doesn't really care about the rules, like, you, the player, might know that what you're about to do is an awful idea, but ask yourself, would your character think it's a bad idea? And if the answer is no, then you should step into that and play it out and see what happens.
I did, and I died.
Hopefully it's not a life or death situation. Yeah, so that's this. This here, so we're getting into this little plus signs now. This is sort of the meat of it. You may have been wondering, like, if I give you a custom weapon or custom stats or whatever, how do I actually add that in so I have it written down? These plus buttons, they do exactly what you think they do. They add a new field based on where they're located. So here, whenever you click the plus button, and I believe you can just do this infinitely, it adds like a new row of these basically blank spaces that you can use for custom things. For example, it's a little finicky, right? Let's say I'm a sorcerer. Sorcerers have sorcery points, right? Whoops. So up here's your total. I don't know, 50. Here's your current. Or let's say you want to use like arrows, right? I have 20 total arrows, right? That's what all this is used for. So if you have like a custom thing, superiority dice, or for Blood Hunter, I think it's hemo something dice, hemolacry. I don't know, hemoglobin. Your hemoglobin counts. Artificers have their own thing, I think. So this is how you would add that stuff and track resources. If you want to remove a row, then you just do the same thing. You click this lock button, click delete. It's not going away, which is nice.
You have
but
to go
maybe
to
if
a
I
different.
Yeah, I was trying to like delete it earlier. I was like, why isn't it deleting? Like, hello?
But that's what all this stuff is for. It's if you have a consumable and you want to keep track of it easily, put that there. Let's go to the bottom left now. Tool proficiencies and custom skills is exactly what it sounds like.
Jozy.
Yeah.
While you're on that class resource, can I add on to that real quick?
Yes, please.
So if you have an item in your inventory too, like the half plate, it's a poor example, but say the half plate was a potion. If you click the little eye icon on the bottom right to expand it, you can use it as a resource, and it'll add it automatically to those boxes up there. And then when you subtract down from it, like you use a potion, you click that down there, because like for me, my inventory is way down at the bottom of my page. I don't scroll down. If I use a potion, it'll change the value in the inventory. Like it goes from having one half plate to 0 down in the inventory.
What? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It also changes the weight, and we're paying attention to weight for the next campaign. So
Oh no.
useful.
Wait.
Yeah.
So. Okay. So. Oh, it shows
My
total weight.
character's
Okay.
loading
Okay.
in
Okay.
with a bag of holding. FYI.
The same thing too is if you are using something like, say you're playing a monk that uses improvised weapons, I can use that half plate and say that it has an attack on it, and it'll add an attack to my attacks and spellcasting thing. Like if I pick like someone that walks around picks up cups and rocks and stuff like that, you can add it and then change it like in there to do whatever 2 damage. If I swing this half plate, I have a +5 to hit, it's gonna do 2 damage.
Mm-hmm. Very important to note though, when you click has an attack, the values in here are the default values. You will have to change them.
Yeah.
But if you were adding in a custom weapon, then this is what you would do. Also, hello Odin, if you want, you can join the link I posted. It takes you to the game so you can follow along. Otherwise, you can just watch the stream. And if you do join the game, let me know because I have to make a character sheet for you to play with. Okay.
Okay, I'll join the game.
Thank you very much for that aside, Eternal. That is super useful. So for those of you who have bloated inventories, which I think a lot of you do because there's a lot of junk in there, if you want to know how many potions you have, find it, click the little eye, and then click use as a resource. It'll pop up in your resource tab. Let me go ahead and make a character sheet for Odin.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You guys are becoming Roll20 power users.
Wait, is Tasha's
okay.
Cauldron in Roll20?
Yes, it's now, and I have shared it with all of you. So Tasha's Cauldron exists. Odin, you should see a character sheet called Odin. You want to not use the character manager. You're going to be editing the sheet directly, so you can play along with it. Okay, so we are now moving into this general area. There's similarities across all of them. You have plus signs, you have lock signs, and you have descriptions of what they do. Over here, tool proficiencies and custom skills. If you have a tool proficiency or a custom skill, you can add it here. Click the plus button. Name your thing. This is a custom tool. What do you have proficiency? Like, yes, you're proficient, or it's expertise, or if you're a bard, you get jack of all trades. So this is how you can change that. What scales with it? Is it strength? Is it dex? Query attribute means that when you click it, I can actually just show you. If you click query attribute and you want to roll for this, it'll ask you what attribute to use. So that's what that means.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I really don't know when that would come into play, to be honest, but I guess maybe tools have multiple modifiers. But that's all it is here. So now, like, I ask you to make, for example, if you're doing lockpicks, it's like, hey, make a lockpicking check. You would just click, in this case, lockpick here, and then it would roll. So here I rolled a custom tool check, which is using proficiency and no other modifiers, or a constitution modifier, excuse me. So you can see that it rolled d20 plus relevant modifiers. My constitution is 0. That's why it's not changing. So if I change this to 15, it went from a 3 to a 5, right? Because then I have +2 to constitution and +3 from the proficiency bonus. So that's this down here. This here is not for rolls. This is for other stuff. Language proficiencies, weapon proficiencies, armor proficiencies. This comes with the class. Fighters, for example, are proficient in like martial weapons. Welcome, Jairus. Let me go ahead and make a character sheet for. Actually, you have Yoshi. You can follow along in there if you want.
Yoshi.
You have a character sheet in here already because I gave you access to this like game a while ago. But you have a sheet you can play along with if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So this bottom left is to keep track of what you are proficient in. For example, medium armor, light armor, heavy armor. All of this information is on your race sheet and your class sheet. So you would just add all of that here manually, basically. Any questions with these boxes? These are pretty self-explanatory, I think. Okay, let's move on to attacks and spellcasting. So, if I gave you a weapon, and it's not in one of the rule books, so you can't just drag and drop, what do you do here? The first thing you would do, I would say, go to your equipment box, click the plus sign. It gives you a blank space. The left is the number of that equipment, and the right is the weight. This is not clear based on what's displayed, so just remember that. But left is how much of that you have, and right is the weight. So let's say I'm going to give this guy an assault rifle. And let's say I don't know how much they weigh. Like, I don't know, like 10-ish pounds? Maybe? I don't know.
I'll look it up for you. Don't worry. It is 8 pounds. Because
that's pretty close. Okay.
I was considering the use.
So, okay, 8 pounds, right? And so now my equipment weight has increased by 8. Great. I've added the item, but it's not an attack yet. Right now, it's just an item sitting in my inventory. Chicken claw. Amazing. So as we saw earlier, click the I. It's very small, so it's kind of hard, but click the I next to it. There's 3 check marks. One is to say, do you have it equipped? The second is it a resource? Now, in this case, an assault rifle is not a resource, right? You're not going to be expending it, probably, unless you break things. What you want to click here is has an attack. And now it's going to show up in your attack sheet here, right? Now that that's done, you want to go up here, click the cogwheel. There's a whole bunch of things here. It looks intimidating, but it's actually quite straightforward. So, there's a couple checkboxes. The first checkbox says that, yes, this is an attack. You will want to have this checked. The second checkbox is, does this do damage? And the answer is, yes, this does damage. You want to have this checked. If it's an attack that does not do damage, I don't really know, like, what? Maybe you wanted to put grappling as an attack in here. Grappling wouldn't do any damage, but it is an attack roll. That's an example. But for the most part, all of your things will have this checkbox and this checkbox. Let's go through them one by one. Next to it, what modifies the attack roll? Recall that the attack roll is to see if you will actually hit, right? In this case, it says strength, but if you click it, you can choose anything here. You can choose from your 6 abilities. You can make it so that it's affected by your spellcasting modifier. If you're a spellcasting class, maybe there's no modifier. Then there's just this little null box here. I don't know what guns would be modified by, but we'll figure that out at some point. Probably dexterity, because they're ranged weapons, just to be consistent. There's a number next to that. This is just a modifier. It's exactly what it sounds like. Like, let's say you have a modifier that gives you +1 to attack specifically. Well, then you just add 1 here, and now it'll add 1 automatically. And then next to that, are you proficient with this weapon? If you are, then you have this checkbox. It'll add your proficiency bonus. If you're not, uncheck it. This is the range. In-game, you don't have to write this down, but the range is nice if you want to know how far you can throw or shoot something. A question that you may be wondering, when you look at ranges in games, there's like 2 numbers. There's a first number, and then there's a second number. What this means, this is not the abilities of an assault rifle. I think they can shoot way further than 60 feet. I know they can.
It's 80 to 40.
Is that based on the official rules?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I'm probably going to use different things because I don't like the damage values they gave for assault rifles. They're too high for where you're
2d8?
starting. Yeah, I think 2d8 probably is a little too high. So we'll see. Because also, I believe they made it not scalable. Like it's just a flat 2d8 no matter how high of a level you are. So we'll figure it out. The first number is the effective range is not the right word. The first number is like the, how will I say? Let's just speak in game terms. If your target in this case is within 60 feet, you make the attack as normal. If your target is further than 60 feet, but closer than 180 feet, you make the attack with disadvantage. So the second number is the total effective range. If they're beyond 180 feet, then it is impossible to hit them with this weapon. So if you see two numbers with a slash in between them, that's what that means. The first number is the not disadvantaged range. I really don't know what to call it. And the second number is the total effective range. Okay, below this, magic bonus. Let's say I have a +1 assault rifle. A +1 assault rifle has +1 to attacks and +1 to damage. Instead of changing the +1 here and the +1 here, just say it's a +1 magic weapon. And now it's a +1 assault rifle. Both the attack and the damage will have +1 automatically added. You can see down here, this is, so we can look at all the numbers individually. This is +8. Why is it +8? Well, it gets +4 from strength, +3 because I'm proficient, and the +1 from the bonus. All adds +8. The damage. Right now it's a 4 + 1. How is it calculating that? So right now, damage. This field is blank, but this is usually where you would put the relevant dice roll, right? So in the case of the assault rifle that Aragon found, it's 2d8. You would simply type 2d8. Here is the modifier, right? The ability modifier. So in this case, it's still strength. And then here is any additional modifiers. You can type the type of slash. You can type the type of damage. In this case, it would probably be piercing, right? But it could be acid, it could be lightning, it could be fire. And you can also change crit. What does this mean? So in the rules raw, whenever you crit, which is to say whenever you roll a nat 20 or other ranged modifiers, which I'll get to in a moment, if you crit with an attack, you roll all of the dice twice. So if you leave this blank, whenever I crit, it'll roll 4d8. If you have a special kind of crit, like recall Ganondorf's Sword of Sharpness, I believe rolls an additional 4d8 on top of whatever damage he's already doing. Then you can change the custom crit value here, right? So it would be 2d8 plus, I don't know, 2d20 or something. So now whenever I crit, it would roll on top of the 2d8 base damage, an additional 2d8 plus 2d20. And on that note, the crit range basically means if you roll higher than this number, then it's a crit. So for example, if I wanted this to crit on every single roll, I'll make the crit range 1. And now, whenever I roll an assault rifle, it doesn't matter what I roll because I'm always going to crit because I'm always rolling higher than a 1. And in the chat box, you can hover over the output. You can see all the things that go into it. So the first number, I rolled a 1, but since I made the crit range a 1, it crits on anything higher than a 1. So I rolled a 1, and then the damage is calculated below. You can see it's the 4d, I don't remember what I did. I think I did 2d8 plus 2d20 or something, but that's all of this stuff. Normally your crit range is going to be 20. Some things have a crit range of 19. I don't know if any go below that. There's additional damage types, so if your weapon does multiple types of damage, let's say this is a, I don't know, poisoned assault rifle that also does 1d6 poison damage that's not affected by modifiers, then you just check that box, type in your relevant things here. If it has a custom crit range, you can change that too, but now my assault rifle is going to do... I'm not rolling... I just realized it should be outputting damage, but I think it's only rolling the attack. Oh, there might be a option here that I forgot to do. Okay, I know what it is now. There's an option, I'll be back. I forgot to check an option when I created the game that automatically rolls damage. I think right now it's only rolling the attack and not the damage. I'm going to change the settings real quick. That should be somewhere here. Where are you?
Wait, how do you add
Always-
the acid damage? Huh?
Sorry, I'm changing. Here it is. Auto roll damage and crit. That's why. Add dex tiebreaker to initiative. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It should now roll damage. I believe. I think I changed it successfully. Okay. Oh,
You have to change
it has to be in the
character sheet.
it has to change in the character sheet. That's why. Yeah. Right. So in the cogwheel, there's a little field that says auto damage roll. That's why. There we go. So now it's doing the piercing and the poison damage. Aragon, your question. If you wanted to add a second damage type, open your thing, click on damage 2, and then type in the relevant modifiers. I don't know if you can add more than 2 kinds of damage, but also I don't really know if anything adds more than 2 kinds of damage.
Hold up. Nope.
So
wait, let me see what you did again. Do you have to? Okay.
So the issue right now is that if you go to your cogwheel in the character sheet, I forgot to turn on a default setting, but there's a field here that says auto roll damage and crit.
Oh,
auto damage roll. You want to turn that on so that it'll automatically roll the attack and the damage.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so then why does it roll 2 though?
I'm getting an error.
You're getting an error? One thing at a time. So the reason it's rolling 2 because I think also in the cogwheel you have a thing that says always roll advantage.
Oh.
Yeah, these are the default rules. I never turn them off because I just made this for like testing stuff. But that's why. Okay, so Jairus, what error did you get?
Syntax error expected, like quotations, parentheses, quotations dot.
What are you clicking? Can you share your screen because I don't know what you're looking at right now.
Sure.
Yes.
I just turned on the auto roll damage and crit.
Then I'm guessing that you may have typed a number that's not compatible.
Okay.
Go ahead and look through all the values, make sure that they're legal numbers and there's no like spaces or commas or anything. If not, share your screen. I'll see if I can try to help you. Okay. Any questions about attacks and spellcastings or equipment? Now, of course, spellcasting is a different thing. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay. The last thing are features and traits. This is where stuff like, halfling nimbleness or wild shape or whatever would go. I have a feature. So custom class feature, right? You just type it in, you say where it's from. Is it a racial feature? Is it a class feature? Is it from a feat? Is it from your background? Is it from something else? Where'd you get it from? And, let's just say I got this from my custom class, right? And then here you can type out, this is the description of the custom class feature, right? That's all that this is. So if you want to output it to chat, you just click the little text box. That's pretty much all there is to. If you want to delete something, click the lock button, delete it, it'll go away.
How do you add a feature? Or a feat, sorry. A feat, I mean. Like a feat from the actual game. Because that's why I was asking about the Tasha's Cauldron earlier, because I was like trying to look up on Roll20 a feat that I was wanting to add to my character at level 4, I think.
I know that the Character Mancer lets you add feats. On that note, the Character Mancer may let you do custom classes as well. I just remember that the Character Mancer may let you do custom classes.
Oh wait, I see it. Or what's it called?
But basically, if you do it through the Character Mancer, at certain levels, it will ask you, do you want to increase your ability scores or would you like to take a feat? And in that case, you would just choose feat and the Character Mancer takes care of it. If you want to manually add a feat, you would have to manually type everything. That's pretty much how it would go. So you put that here. This is a custom feat. Custom feat. Source is from a feat. And source type, it's a feat or whatever. And you type this is the custom feat description. If the feat modifies scores, which a lot of feats do, then you go to your cogwheel or you click here and change the relevant numbers. But now with everything we've gone through, with review, you guys should be able to figure out how to change values pretty much. If you cannot change the value on this page, you can probably change it in the cogwheel page. And everything is named after what it does. Any questions about this entire page?
Oh, you can just click and drag. Oh, I see.
Oh,
I see,
that's
I see.
also super nice.
So I can.
So my question is, did it increase your dexterity score when you?
That's what I'm checking, and it's not. Like, because it's at 10 right now. It should be increasing the score by 1, so it should be 11.
Yes. So I guess you can click and drag, and it'll automatically add it to your list, but it won't actually add any modifiers.
That sucks.
So in that case, you would just have to type it in and keep track of it, which you know how to do now.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
So what if I'm using my chicken claw and I'm attacking something that's undead, but I get a bonus to undead? What would I do?
What kind of bonus to undead?
Extra damage.
Oh, you get extra damage specifically to undead?
Yes.
Oh,
Plus 2
okay,
damage to
okay.
undead. What would I do?
Okay, excellent. We're going to go back to our cogwheel, and we're going to go to our global modifiers. Okay, I'm going to turn all these on just for simplicity's sake. Thank you for reminding me that this existed, because this is important. And we turn off all these cogwheels just so we can look at things. Okay, so Eternal Chicken Claw gets a bonus damage to undead. Look in your attacks and spellcasting box. You have a global attack modifier. This will affect your attack. And you have a global damage modifier. This affects your damage. Let me go ahead and add, I don't know, the name of this is bonus damage to undead. And the damage can either be a dice roll or it can be a flat 2 damage. It also has critical damage and the type of damage, I don't know, radiant or something, right? So now, once I click this cogwheel, now whenever I'm fighting an undead creature, remember to click this, make your attack. Top numbers are your attack rolls. There's your damage modifier, 2 radiant damage, alongside your damage rolls from the weapon.
Wait, can you show that again?
Yeah. So do you have an area called global damage modifier?
Just global. Let's see. Okay, I picked global attack modifier. What's the difference?
Attack is the 2 hit bonus. Damage is the damage.
The 2 hit bonus.
So basically the top numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, an attack is broken down into 2 values, your attack roll and your damage roll. The attack roll tells you if you successfully hit. The damage is how much damage you do after a successful hit.
Oh, so the attack modifiers for when, helps you hit more, basically.
Yes, or hit less if it's a negative modifier.
Okay, so then let's say... Okay, so then I have global damage modifier. Now what?
You have global damage modifier. Click the cogwheel.
Okay.
And change the fields as you would like.
Bonus damage to undead. Damage. Oh, you can make a roll. Okay, so let's say
a roll.
2d10.
Yeah. The nice thing, by the way, about the rolls is that you can make them dice values that don't exist. You can make a D56.
Hey, Josie, I sent you something. So.
Oh, yes. Let me take a look.
Wait. Bonus sneak damage to undead. Oh, okay.
Oh, so, Jairus, you have damage 2 checked, but you have no values in it.
So what's the value I need to add in then?
That's up to you. If you're making a custom item, then you can add whatever values you want, right? Is it a D6? Is it a D12? Is it just a flat number?
I put in 2d10 just to test things out.
In the damage value, or in which one? Damage or damage 2?
And damage.
Okay. Your damage 2 is blank, so it should not be checked.
Okay.
Try it now. Yeah, what's up?
Once you guys are done, I can. You want to explain like doing query tables within damage or no?
I did not. I was not planning to talk about that. So if you want to, you totally can.
I'm still getting an error.
Let me take a look at. Is this Yoshi?
Yeah.
Okay, let me take a look at your rocket launcher here.
Ooh, that's a big number. Hey, that's crazy.
You have multiple rocket. What's going on here? Syntax error. I wonder if you have a space that's typed somewhere here. A secret space that's like affecting things. Because that is really, really weird. You know, to be honest, I'm not really sure what is going on.
Let me check something.
I
You tried
will
turning it
search.
off and back on again, but without
That's
the
a fair
joke.
point.
Just maybe delete the item and retry it.
Let's see. Try re-entering the values. I'm wondering if it's just like a dirty value that got messed up somehow.
No.
Was it working before?
It didn't give me the damage output.
So it was working, but it did not give the damage output.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Okay. Your global damage modifier, the damage cannot be a string. It cannot be like a word. It has to be a number. For your
Right.
instant kill. The rocket launcher is not the issue. Your global damage modifier, when you have rage damage, you said the damage is instant kill. It can't be a word. It has to be
Oh,
a
I see.
number.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't the rocket launcher, it was just
It wasn't the rocket launcher. It was that. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Yep. That would be why. So. Yeah. It can't be a word. Okay. Wait. So, Eternal, when you mean queries, do you mean like the always roll advantage, or is this something else? Okay.
Basically, you can add it. It has damage too. You can add it to basically pop out a box and put in your own input. So, like,
Oh.
if you're doing certain things, you can put a. I don't know if you want to look at my screen. I can show you real quick instead of reading this string out. Basically, it's a query that you're asking it. I put the phrase modifier in there with the default value of 0. Damage 2. So when I click it, pops up a box and it'll tell me input value. So if it's something like Divine Smite, where it changes based on what you're doing and what you're attacking, you can put your known values in it. So like say if I'm using Divine Smite, instead of having like a global damage modifier on here, toggling it back and forth, whenever I use it, I could be like, well, this current thing I'm hitting is an undead, so I get +4 damage to it. So when you do that, it puts it out in a separate box where the modifier is. If I don't do anything, leave it as a 0, the output's as a 0. There's another way of doing it.
Gotcha. And so we're getting into, I guess, basically using like scripts at this point. Yeah, and so theoretically, that script you put in there, you can put in for the attack and not just the damage. It'll ask you to query, I guess, multiple times, right? I don't know.
Yep, you can do it As many as you want.
But that's everything on yes, this stream was great. That's everything on this sheet. Your bio sheet, everybody knows that this is for you to type your own things, keep track of. So I'm not gonna go too much into it. The last thing are spells. So, this is the last thing I have, and then if you want to stick around, Eternal's gonna talk about, I guess, macros, and macro bars and stuff like that. But spells. So, if you are a spellcasting class, there's a couple things that you will want to know if you're making them manually. The first one is, what is your spellcasting ability modifier? It's probably one of these mental traits: intelligence, wisdom, charisma. But you can change it here, and all of these numbers will be affected by your relevant ability modifiers. So, strength. My spell save is 15. My spell attack is 7. Intelligence, yada yada. In terms of their calculations, it's in the rulebook, but your spell save DC is 8 plus the modifier plus proficiency? Question mark? I think it is plus proficiency. And your spell attack bonus is your modifier plus proficiency. But that's how you determine the numbers manually if you needed to.
What are those? Like the DC and the spell attack bonus?
Excellent question. Spell save DC. If you are casting a spell where the target has to make a saving throw, that is the number they have to beat. Spell attack bonus is if you cast a spell that requires you to actually make an attack roll, that is the number that is added to your d20.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So it's the same thing as the attack bonus from the core page, basically. This is just what's added to your spells.
Can you repeat the spell save DC part of that?
Yes. So the spell save DC, the score is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your spellcasting ability modifier, which in this case is strength, but it can be any one of those 6 skills. And the spell save DC is the number that the target has to beat if they need to make a spell saving throw. Fireball, for example, when you start to cast Fireball, she's not making an attack. The targets have to make a dexterity saving throw to see if they avoid the damage, right? And so, in this case, they would have to roll higher than a 15 on a dexterity saving throw to not get destroyed by this Fireball. You can see Tony Stark has cast Fireball. His dexterity save is 16. The enemy has to beat or match, I guess we're doing match, beat or match a 16 to avoid taking the full damage of this Fireball. That's what the top 3 things are. The next things are all of this. What's going on here? So there's a couple of things. The number to the very left represents the level of the spell. This is independent of your character level, or rather, it's not 1-to-1. This is basically saying, like, how powerful is the spell? Level 0 spells or cantrips are the least powerful, while level 9 spells are the most powerful. That's what this left number is. It just represents the level of the spell. Each spell has an associated level. It does not mean that when you're level 9, you can cast a level 9 spell. The type of spells you can cast are determined by your spell slots, which is a resource that is used in place of a mana system. They are expendable resources, so you cannot cast your most powerful spells as many times as you want, because that would just be too strong. So your spell slots, or how many times you can cast a spell at that respective level, is the second number. So right now, it's this 2. I have 2 level 1 spell slots, and 0 level 2, 0 level 3, so on and so forth. Cantrips are free spells. You do not need to expend a spell slot if you cast them at level 0. But some spells let you upcast. For example, I want to cast let me just get a spell real quick. So if the spell exists in the rulebooks, you can go to your compendium, search up the spell, and just drag and drop. So I'm going to look for Firebolt. Dragging and dropping it in. Firebolt has now been added to my cantrips. Click the I button. All this information is there. Yada yada. Can I upcast
it,
Firebolt? I can't upcast Fireball, unfortunately. So let me, for example, get Fireball. I know you can upcast Fireball. Okay. So Fireball, by default, is a 3rd level spell. However, if you look at the description, when you cast the spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d6 for each slot above 3rd. So, default, I click the button, it asks, what level will I cast it at? The default is 3rd level, click submit. It'll roll all the relevant values. Now, let's say, I want to cast a Fireball, but I want to cast it at 9th level. I want to make it more powerful, but I want the effects of the spell of Fireball. Click on Fireball, change to level 9. It's now going to roll, what is that? 6 additional d6 on top of the 8d6, which is outputted into a separate box. So that radiant damage, by the way, I think is because I have this global damage modifier on. Yes, so I want to turn this off. But you can see I rolled a 27 at base. My upcast resulted in a 23 additional damage. So that's what spell levels mean. Thank you for whoever outputted that. Meteor Swarm, for example. Yeah, I mean, you can just output the description of spells by clicking the speech bubble. It goes into chat, and it tells people what that spell does. So that's that part. And then
Did you upcast?
the third. So upcasting, if it's a spell in the default game, it will query you. It will ask you cast at what level. If it's not one of those spells, then it won't give you that. But it's in the description. If it says anywhere in the description, whenever you cast this using a spell slot of X level or higher, then the game should query you, right?
Okay.
That is for spells that exist in the compendium. And I'll go to custom spells in a moment. But this third number is just how many slots remaining. So right now I have 2 level 1 spell slots. I cast 1 spell, now I have 1 left. I cast my second, I have no more level 1 spell slots. I can no longer cast spells using a level 1 spell slot. You may notice that this number cannot be altered on this page. Well, whenever you have a number that you cannot change, at this point, just any page. But for those of you who've been here since the beginning, it should be intuitive. If there's a number you cannot change directly, you go to the cog wheel. There's probably a field somewhere where you can change the number. Oh, look, I have 0 level 9 spell slots. I'm going to give myself 10 of those. Notice I now have 10 level 9 spell slots, right? Now, the numbers on the right can actually be independent from the ones on the left. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of doing all that, you can just change the numbers and then have the maximums written down elsewhere. But I would recommend that you keep track somehow, whatever works best for you.
Wait, how do you add the spell slots?
So, if it is not built into the game and granted to you by automatic calculations, you go to the cogwheel, and in the bottom left, you can manually change how many spell slots. Right. Recall back to the beginning that over here, actually in this custom class, it asks you spell slots, none, right? And then when you put the drop down, there's a list that says full, half, third. So different levels of spellcasters get different amounts of spell slots when they level up. If your class falls under one of these options, you just select one of these and the numbers will be taken care of automatically. You don't have to worry about finding out how many level 1 spell slots you have, level 2 or whatever. It will be done automatically when you level up. Just as an example, let's say that this class is a full caster, so I'm going to change this back to 0, right? And let me get rid of my first and second classes here. So I should be back down to level 1. Okay, there we go. So I'm level 1 right now. And at level 1, if you were a full spellcaster, you get 2 level 1 spell slots. Now, let's change my level from 1 to 20. So I'm now a level 20 custom class, right? Also notice that my hit dice did not automatically update, so when you manually change things, you'll have to add and delete as is appropriate. Those are the limitations, but it is better than pencil and paper. I'm a level 20 caster. I have more spell slots. I have 4 level 1 spell slots, 3 level 2, so on and so forth, right? Let's say that my class is not a full caster, it's a half caster. So paladins and rangers. The types of spell slots I have are different. I don't have a level 9 spell slot anymore, right? The highest I have is a 5 at level 20.
Sad.
Yeah. So depending on what your class is, it's full or half. For those of you who are playing custom classes that are not included, it should say on the sheet. If not, just look at the table. Basically, if you see a level 9 spell slot at all on that table, you're probably a full caster. If 5 is your max, then you're half. And third is really only reserved for subclasses that don't normally cast magic, but their subclasses give them access to some, like Arcane Rogue and Arcane Fighter. Those are subclasses of Rogue and Fighter, respectively. By base, they do not cast spells, but with these classes, they do, so they get some spells. And you can see that they only go up to 4 at level 20, not 5.
The only exemption to that rule is playing Warlock.
Yes,
because their scaling is goofy.
Warlock is a little different, but in that case, you would just, instead of choosing any of these, you click none, and then you just make the class Warlock, and the game takes care of that automatically. But for those of you who are wondering, Warlocks only ever have 2 spell slots total. It's just the level upgrades as they increase. So they start with 2 level 1 spell slots, which eventually become 2 level 2 spell slots, and then 2 level 3 spell slots.
They can't do much at all.
Yeah, they can only cast 2 spells, but the difference is they get their spell slots back on a short rest. No other class gets their spell slots back on a short rest.
Oh, that's okay though.
I mean,
give or take.
Yeah, give or take. It depends on exactly. It's situational. It depends on how your campaigns run. If it's usually 1 fight, 1 rest, then yeah, Warlocks are fine. If you're doing multiple fights in a row where you don't have the opportunity to rest, then it's a little harder. But okay. And then the last thing, custom spells. That is what we are here for. So like everything, there's a plus button that lets you add a new thing, and there's a lot of options. Here's where you can type the name of that spell, right? This is a custom spell. Here's the school. Is it from abjuration, conjuration, yada, yada, yada? This is usually included in the spell description. Let's say this is necromancy. And next to it, there's a little checkbox that says ritual. I'll explain what ritual is, but if it is a ritual spell, you just click the checkbox, and a little R will appear that tells you that, hey, this is a ritual spell. So unchecking it, it's gone. Rechecking it, it's back. Casting time, self-explanatory. Most of it is 1 action. Some of them are bonus actions. Some of them are 1 minute, like Flinty's Tiny Hut is 1 minute. Stuff like that. Range, you know what range is at this point. It has 2 values, 1 before and 1 after the slash. And target is basically like 1 target or AoE, but let's see, what does it say here? Target, a creature or object within range. Okay, so this is also, all of these, if you're getting them from a rule book or rule sheet somewhere, all of these already exist. You just have to type it in. Components. Okay. There's 3 total components that a spell may have. It may have a verbal component, which means you have to say something to cast the spell. That's the V. It may have a somatic component, which means you have to use body movement to cast the spell. So usually hand waving or whatever. And the third is material component. So if it has a material component, then you type the material down below and you check this box. Notice that these boxes directly affect what letters show up in this little handy dandy shortcut here. So if you don't want to expand it, it can tell you right here, hey, so this spell is a ritual spell and it requires verbal, somatic, and material components. One thing to note, a lot of spells have material components, but unless they specify that the material is consumed, then you can cast them as long as you have the material in your inventory. That's very important because not every spell consumes the material. There's also another checkbox here, concentration. Is it a concentration spell? If it is, there's a little C there that tells you. Recall that for concentration spells, you can only concentrate on one spell at a time. It does not preclude you from casting other non-concentration spells. And whenever you are hit while concentrating, you have to make a Constitution saving throw. Duration, exactly what it sounds like. 1 round, 2 rounds, an hour, 24 hours, yada yada. Spellcasting ability. What modifier are you using? Most of the time it's going to be spell. It's going to use your spellcasting ability modifier. So most of the time spell is what you want there. Innate. So for you guys, I don't think any class has this. But innate basically means instead of using a spell slot, some creatures have innate ability to cast spells X amount of times per day. So Pixies, I guess, for example. So, if I type 3 per day, or 3 per day here, right? That means that instead of using a spell slot, well, this is weird because it's a cantrip, but instead of using a spell slot, I can just cast it 3 times per day. And that you just have to track manually. There's not like a separate dropdown for that. So that's what that means. And the output here, basically it changes if it outputs it as an attack, which is if you scroll up and look to all of these rolls where you have like the 2 numbers and then the damage, it just changes how it looks like in the chat. So it may output as an attack or it may output as a spell card. If you're making a custom spell as an attack, you'll want to choose attack, and then you'll have all the same modifiers that you usually have from your front sheet, your core sheet. If it's one of those that have a description, like modify memory, it doesn't have damage, doesn't have an attack, and you just type the stuff here. And this is self-explanatory. Description is the description at higher levels. If you can cast it at higher levels, what does it do? Class, what class is this from? Not every class can cast every spell, and the type of spell, I think that's the damage type. I'm not really sure actually what this is. I'm going to click test and see what happens. So this is description. I can't find my F. This is at higher levels, description, and this is type test. So I'm going to cast this and see what happens, what it outputs. Cast at what level? Oh, I see. Right, because I said that you can cast it at higher levels, so... Okay, I have no idea what the type does. Maybe it's the damage type, but in any case, it probably is the damage type. Okay, what else here? Oh, ritual spells. Ritual spells, some classes, like clerics and barbarians and paladins, maybe, can choose to cast a spell as a ritual. Which basically means instead of using a spell slot, you can multiply the casting time by 10 and then cast it for free. I think. I might be wrong about the multiplier, but basically it's another way to cast spells for free, but it takes more time. Usually used for like pre-buffing if you expect to go into a battle or something. So basically what ESO took away from us. Very sad.
Wait, they removed that?
I'm pretty sure ESO removed pre-buffing, right? Didn't they? Wasn't that a thing that happened? I don't know. It's been a while. Okay, that's literally everything I have planned. If you guys want to go, you are free to. I mean, you didn't have to stay in the first place, but yeah, that's all I have. And I guess Eternal, if you want, you can talk a little bit about macros and stuff. But that's all I have. If you have any questions, you can ask now. You can DM me. General things, don't be afraid to explore. You have free access to this game. Please mess around with your character sheet. Please mess around with the cogwheel tab. This is probably the best tab to mess around with and see what things change, because you can do a lot of things here and a lot of troubleshooting. But that's all I have. Any questions?
I do want to point out that when I click and drag the sharpshooter sheet into the features and traits, it did add the sharpshooter stuff into the global attack modifiers and the global damage modifiers. But then again, when I tried the gunner thing again, and I even tried changing it to like a level to my level, because you're not allowed to have certain feats, and except for like, and I even like set my scores down all the way to 10. It didn't really do anything, which I guess sucks.
Yeah. So basically at the end of the day, I just wanted you guys to be more aware of all the ins and outs of your character sheet. I know it's a lot. I just talked for like almost an hour and a half. But just play around with it. Maybe when it's not your turn in combat and you already know what you want to do, just explore and see what things do and what things are. It may be scary to work on a character sheet because you don't want to accidentally mess anything up. But just fortune favors the bold and all that. So
Shit. So I can't find fortune.
You got a plus 12.5%.
Does anyone want to go over macros quickly? If not, we can always do it another day if anyone wants to do it. It doesn't have
Yeah, I know we talked a lot. I was just talking a lot. And
I need to head out, so I'm gonna need to find some
Same, I
stuff.
have to go make dinner.
Alright, no worries.
No problem.
Eternal.
Yes,
I would love to learn macros.
I mean, yeah, I'm down to learn macros
At a
too.
different date would be great, but I actually do want to learn how to do that, because like those the healing potion dice thing, I got super cool, super good.
Did you see the updated one?
Oh yeah,
no.
we consolidated it, so instead of 4 different buttons, it's just 1 button now, and you can choose what kind of healing potion you use.
Yeah, it basically picks and chooses. It goes into a query table, and you just pick which one you want to use and select it and automatically pulls from it.
Nice. Fucking
stuff. Yeah, if you guys want to do something during the week, we can do another, I guess, poll or question, see if anyone's got another date that they want to do something during the week, and we can go over macros.
I'm gonna shunt that to you because you've been playing with macros more than I have. Because from the DM side, it's less macros and more managing like 900 character sheets.
Definitely.
Plus